Hello and welcome to the Position 6 podcast. My name is Dan Offen, aka Mr. Big Jams. In this show, I get to know people involved in the Dota 2 scene, and we talk about everything Dota related, aside from doubling down on a loss. This week's episode is with one of the most popular broadcasters in Dota 2, Sir Action Slacks. Sir Action Slacks took to Dota like a duck to water, starting recording absurd videos on YouTube, but then going to attend multiple internationals. I massively enjoyed recording of him, so I hope you enjoy listening to it as much as I did doing it. If you'd like to talk about the episode while listening to it, you can join the Position 6 Discord channel, which is listed in the episode description, or follow me on Twitter, and that's at Daniel Offen, and that's Daniel and then O-F-F-E-N. I also have a Patreon site if you'd like to support me financially, and you can find that in the episode description as well. The episode will kick off right now. So you've just got back from MDL Disney. How did you find it as a tournament to work?
As a tournament to work, it was great. I actually really love working tournaments like that. That kind of are strange in a way. How should I say that? So, for me, working the same kind of things like ESLs and PGLs, those are great tournaments. Don't get me wrong, but for stuff like the recent first tournament in India, the first tournament in Paris, these are like the ones that I actually ask the tournament organizers to let me go to, because super passionate about just like building the Dota community in places that it hasn't been before. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Is that fan interaction? Is that what you like, the build of it?
Of course. I mean, I'm not like a lot of people that work in the Dota esports scene. When it comes to the games themselves, the pro games, they actually just upset me. When I watch pro players play, all I want to do is play Dota, and I get over it. So watching the pro players play, I just want to go play. But what I really am about with the games and the tournaments and stuff is actually just meeting the fans. I love that, and being able to go around the world and see these different Dota guys. So to me, that's what's most important. But yeah, in short, India was amazing and Paris was amazing. Great fans, great people, great games. Thought it was pretty cool that we integrated with Disney and Dota for the second time. So it was cool, man. I don't know. Working the event was fun too, because the guys didn't, it was their first time doing an event outside of China. So that was super interesting as well.
You had quite a lot of responsibility in it that you've not really had before, and that you did more hosting. Did you enjoy that, or did you find it quite stressful?
Oh, hell, man. It was brutal, actually. So the whole reason I went to that tournament, I demanded that I do content. Like, I contacted the guys and I was like, yo, I do content. I said, because Disney had to do background checks on whoever got invited to that. I was like, look,
what level of background checks? Like spy checks, or?
Yeah, Daddy's been denied a few events for his illustrious Twitter. Yeah, so they had to do background checks as talent to let us go into that. And I was like, look, even if I don't get invited through the background checks, please, I'll send you my ideas to do content. You have to do content. So after all that begging, they said that they would allow me to do content, but they also wanted me to be the host. So I basically had to do two people's jobs. Like, as soon as I was done hosting for the day, went out to the park and film content, and it was seriously like 16 hours a day.
Oh, wow.
For 10 days of just straight work. But it was brutal. Yeah, super interesting though. I love working on new stuff. Whenever I get good at something, I get bored of it. So I was terrified to host. Felt more motivated to work than I have in years. Well, not years, months. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. I don't know how good of a job I did, but it was all right.
Was there a philosophy you brought to it? Were you trying to be a host in your own way? Because I noticed that you'd shifted tone slightly hosting to what you'd normally do.
Yeah, that's something that a lot of people talk to me about. They say that, I'd be more approachable if I dropped the character of Sir Action Slacks, and it would be more fun to get to know the real me. My problem is that my character, Sir Action Slacks, is the real me. He's super fucking annoying. So the hosting gig that you saw was actually the first time I've actually put on a character. I toned it down, tried to act like a normie, tried not to screech and be annoying. So yeah, it was new trying to put on a different persona of somebody that's more like calm and relaxed. Yeah, but it was a fun challenge, and I used to have to be like that. I had a real life where I worked at different jobs in the real world before this esports thing all began. And I honestly hadn't acted like a normal human being since like 2014. So it was pretty sobering to go back to being a functioning member of society in the host role, but it was a fun challenge. I loved it.
Do you think there's something that you can bring to that host role, that not to talk yourself higher than anyone else, but do you think there's anything that Sir Action Selects can bring to that role that other people
Oh
can't?
God, I'm so much better than Red Eye, Sheever, Machine. I mean, it's just I bring it all, baby. I will say that as somebody that sees a lot of panels, that having someone that actually knows the game, plays the game, and is frustrated by the game really does bring out more on panels. That's one thing that I really look up to Sheever. She's this hosting queen. We've worked together on Dream League for many years, and I've seen her grow as a talent from somebody that used to be pretty much like, what does Tidehunter's Ravage do, to, she's just as good as me probably now in Dota, and it adds a lot to it. Then again, I don't know, man. I mean, every show has its own life, its own breath. When you're making these esports stuff like, TI and all these other things, the host really is the foundation of what you want the soul of that event to be. So, in a way, yeah, sometimes it helps to have a lot of Dota knowledge and be like ingrained into that community. But in other times, like when Rich hosted the Shanghai Major 2, I am actually afraid to say the name of that event. This is not a joke. I was invited to work that event, and I actually turned it down as the stage host, sheerly out of terror that I could say it wrong. So don't
practice over and over again.
Nope, it's not worth it, dude. It's not worth the risk. But yeah, so did I bring anything new? I guess it's just like, being ingrained in the community and knowing all the memes and stuff. But in the same way, I think that every host has its own beauty that they bring to the show, their own soul. So it's I don't think I've really brought anything except for a different flavor.
And you talked about downshifting into the character of the normal guy. Is there a way that you'd like to refine that so you can bring out more of your own sense of humor when in those more serious positions?
Oh, God, I hate being a normie, dude. Jesus Christ. It reminds me when I started doing Fails of the Week with Suns Fan, and I went in like totally me, 100% me, and everyone hated it. And I had to tone it down for fails. And of course, your standard audience, the more people that don't, how should I say this? It's kind of like, Jeff Dunham, that puppet guy, the puppet comedian. Nobody like hates Jeff Dunham, right? Nobody's like, oh, he's literally the worst. He's just like there. And that's what, like, okay. And that's what most people want, is someone that's just there and okay. And, oh, he's doing good. He's, soft clap. But that's not where real comedy comes from. That's not where like really edgy, funny stuff comes from. I'm completely the other way. I love it that people either hate me or they love me. So to me, toning it down is super annoying, but it's a necessity of wanting to be successful. But at this time, I'd rather just be myself and have fun. And when I start selling out later down the line and doing other games and shit, then yeah, I'll be more toned down and boring. But for now, as long as I got enough people that don't mind me being an annoying piece of garbage, I'm going to ride that train as long as I can.
It's tough, though, with comedy, isn't it? Because people, if you're not funny and you're just competent, people will accept that to any degree. Whereas I think if you're funny and people find you slightly not funny at all, then they'll just hate that. Do you find it quite frustrating having to be the funny guy?
No, I actually don't. I am a legitimate psychopath, and I think that my favorite part of this job are people that dislike me. It's really the thing that motivates me the most. Like, I get some, when I go to a Reddit thread that's like, oh, great job, Sir Action Slacks. I don't read 90% of the thread. I go what I call gold mining. And you go down to the bottom with the negatives and you take out the pickaxe and you start seeing what nasty shit people are writing. And I love that stuff. It cracks me up. It's literally the reason why I do it. I have to honestly admit that I get bored with my job when I start like being too mainstream and everybody's just enjoying what I'm doing. I remember I did a PUBG event a year and a half ago. Just because my stock was really high in Dota and the PUBG community hated me and I had so much fun. It was so good. But I'm half joking and I'm half not. I really consider counter trolling to be my favorite part of the game.
Yeah.
Like replying to people that are flaming me with counter flames and just trying to destroy each other. It's great. It's the meta game. I love it.
Is that where you made that Shrek joke so many times to
Yes.
annoy someone?
Literally, yeah. How dare you? That was a good joke.
It was a good. I liked it maybe the first 10 times.
The first 10 times, but I don't know. It's interesting. When you're an actual idiot, it's actually pretty hard to host because you run out of things to say. Your Dota knowledge can only go so far. And then you're in this draft and they've picked Drow Ranger, Leshrac, and Oracle. And then you're like, oh, Christ, this is the 16th time that this has happened. But that's where good hosts shine instead of me. So, yeah, what can you do?
Do you think panels, because you've been working in the scene for a while, kind of going up and forwards, is your first time hosting kind of a panel? Do you think panels have changed in their kind of ability to fill those voids? Or
I don't know. If I could do panels differently, I would. This is back when I was working with Valve on TI 8. I had a lot of talk about how I wanted panels to be different and how I think that they're super bad in Dota, actually, which is a weird thing to say. But I personally, don't get me wrong, I'm best friends with everybody that works panels. But a real panel, a real thing needs to be conversation. And it needs to have people that are heels. We have no heels in Dota. Very limited ones that will actually go and say, like, this player sucks. And it's something that a lot of other sports, real life sports have. And it's something that Counter-Strike has. And I think Counter-Strike's panels are literally the only thing that keeps that game going besides cosmetics. And it's just, in Dota, we have such a high value on players. And everyone's so scared to say that this player's wrong, this player did something bad, that there's no actual hard discussion, I think, on our panels besides that's a great pick because of ABC. This is a good idea because of EFG, and putting in a little spice and a little bit of flavor in between and having people argue is something that I think we should strive for. But it's something that just doesn't seem right in the Dota community. I don't know.
It's a tough balance to get, though. I mean, the community often hates when anyone criticizes a pro player because they're like, well, they're better than you. And it's they may be better than me, but I can see they're not doing particularly well at present.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. And I think it's because I think that will come later. I remember back in Summit 3, when I was choosing what career path I wanted to go in Dota, I was talking to a PPD. I was driving cars for them. I was their taxi boy back then. I was talking to PVD and I said, bro, he was his first time on the couch. And I was like, when you retire, you're going to destroy these analysts because it's like that career won't even exist. And he said, yeah, well, when I retire, when I'm worthless, I guess I can end their careers. And it really is true. As an analyst, like no matter who you are, Cap's like a mortal. He's not allowed to say bad things about a player, but players can say bad things about players. So there will come a time, probably in 2 years, where the majority of the big names of pro Dota players are retiring and then they turn into panelists. And then, we'll really be able to get the fire and get the good panel segments then. But as for right now, it's pretty much everyone just shaking their hands and agreeing on how smart everyone is. So, bah.
Yeah, I mean, we had a little bit of it. Kyle's been doing touches of that, I'd say, in that he criticized Envy, and that was good.
And that's why he's so good. I mean, that's why Kyle is such a good analyst, is because when he says something, that that's coming from a place of competition and competence, and he has these big histories with people. And I'm not saying that the other talent don't have these great histories. It's just that the community won't accept, blitz flaming somebody. They'll say, oh, he's biased. Oh, curse him. He's a biased boy. When instead he could just be actually making a comment about how somebody made a mistake. But it comes in our whole atmosphere of being Dota people. We're very egotistical that we're all the best and our pro players are the best of that small percentage of best. So I can understand all that. I'm just saying things should change a little bit. We should have a little bit more fun on these panels.
Is there anything else you'd like to change about panels and style and format? Or
oh, Christ, get rid of the draft. For God's sake, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. I know that the draft is good, but why can't the players draft during the commercial break and then the host is able to go through the draft at his own leisure? slowly revealing what the bans and the picks are? Why do we have to actually wait in real time for people? For God's sakes, the draft can be 20 minutes long in an 18-minute game. Why am I sitting here for so long? And anyway, I brought that up with Valve a while ago. It was not, the pro players surprisingly don't like that. I talked to a few of them, and they said that they made some very good points, saying that, having one of those long drafts and then a quick snap pick at the end and then immediately starting the game can sometimes confuse the other team on what lanes to go to, yada, yada, yada. But I don't know. I'm always trying to find ways to innovate the viewing experience in Dota. And in my opinion, get rid of the draft, for God's sakes. It's awful.
Is that part of what Midas Mode is about then, that space to innovate?
Hell yeah, that's what it's all about, brother. That's why I love Dota. It's about innovation. Our entire system is made in a capitalistic way. We're not like Riot, who put the heavy chains of, corporate greed on every event. We're not like Blizzard, who just funnel money into dying games to try to make them work. We're capitalists. Whoever has the best product rises to the top, baby. That's why Valve's been stealing from JJ for the last 5 years. It's because his products are dope. It's what they want. But so it's always about innovation. That's what I always think. And I'm a big proponent of, if you get good at something, leave it behind and find something better. So I try to innovate myself in my work. And then I think, of course, I'm going to try to innovate the thing that I love most in this world, besides my beautiful wife, Dota 2. So people should always be trying to think about how to make things better, in my opinion. That is the heart of Midas Mode, indeed.
And how's it coming along? Are you able to talk about any of the prep for it?
It's coming. It's coming. It's been difficult, brother, but it's good. I was making a blog about the process of making it, and then we got this really great opportunity where I found a venue, but we had to secure that venue. And the act of securing that venue might inherently give us some sponsorship opportunity by signing with that venue. So we have to figure that out before I can officially announce to when and where it's going to be. So news has slowed down on it, but I am actively working on it every day, and it's going to be good, dude. We got some good surprises and ideas coming, but we did have to push back, though. Our original date was a little bit too close to TI, and one of the big problems in Dota 2 is that there's about zero accountability with teams. And don't get me wrong, I love teams, but when there's a tournament that's going to be in July and TI is in August, you cannot count on either bestest of friends that are going to stick around and go to your tournament, because there's $1 million tournament, so they drop out at any second. Like last year at Midas Mode, we had one of our top tier teams try to pull out of the tournament 12 hours before it started. So it's
That's quick.
Yeah, that's terrifying. But that was a good day. But anyway, so yeah, we kind of don't have too much on the accountability side for teams. They could just drop out of tournaments whenever they feel like it. And so you kind of have to play defensively and be like, okay, I'm going to pick this one time slot where I know that they're probably not going to drop out in order to get something better, which we saw a few times in the last year's DPs.
But with Midas Mode, what's quite nice about it for you as an organizer is, I imagine, it matters slightly less the teams that you have in, and that the form and the content is more as important as teams. Do you agree with that?
No. Sorry
okay.
to disagree, but I think teams are always paramount in Dota. And it's one of the biggest problems that we have, is that, as we look up to our players, we also look up to our teams, and the community really isn't interested in tier 2 and tier 3 teams, because there's not like this fundamental support network set up by Valve or something to get that interest going. People will watch something if it has Liquid, Alliance, Secret. They come for those big names. And the other innovations are cool, don't get me wrong, and it's certainly a good way to complement it. But if Valve said, yo, we'll give you a minor to do Midas Mode, but you can't have any of those teams, I don't know if I would do it, because I don't know if it would get any viewership. I mean, innovation's great, but it all has to be part of this bigger plan, which needs to change too, because I feel like Dota's going to die in 3 years if we don't start supporting smaller scenes and new innovative ideas like that. But it's kind of a problem in our overall structure where, TI is the only important thing, and teams don't care, players don't care, people don't care. Everything matters about TI. So,
But what you do, I think, fits quite well outside of that DPC season anyway. So taking a minor, or even, I mean, if there were to be a Midas Mode major, which would possibly be absurd.
I would not do that. That's a bad idea.
It'd be a lot of pressure.
It would be real bad. That's a career ender right there. But yeah, go on. Sorry.
Do you think that the tournaments that sit outside that DPC season need to make more effort in form and content?
Yeah, I guess I feel like the DPC is inherently flawed, and I haven't from the last year. And I made a little post on Reddit about it, but I don't know. I mean, in my opinion, I feel like everybody that did a DPC event last year, I couldn't see a universe where minors made any money for this the tournament organizers, because you can't have like big time sponsors there. You literally ensure that big teams are not coming. You have Admiral Bulldog and Sing Sing stealing literally half of your viewership on some days. And then sure, doing a minor, maybe that was a way to make sure that you could get a major, which you actually might be able to get a bunch of viewership from. But at the same time, it's just, I don't know a single company from the last year that I felt personally was like, oh yeah, this has been a great year for Dota 2 esports, except for ESL. And why did ESL have the greatest year? Because they didn't get a single DPC event, and they went off on their own as a third party. And they only suffered once for that. People pulled out from, I think, India. And it was the only event out of the entire year where it seemed like that they got a big hit. So that's my personal opinion. Of course, not followed by finances or facts, but just somebody working on the ground. You see these tournament organizers hiring less people, using less production value. And in my opinion, it seems like they're on their way out. But what do I know? Maybe next year, a ton of people signed up for new majors and minors. And maybe I'm reading the situation wrong. But in my opinion, there needs to be a lot more focus on that kind of stuff if we're going to see something. Or, I mean, don't get me wrong, bro. I'm sure a bunch of people are signing up for minors and majors next year, and I bet you we will have at least 2 more GESC type scenarios come out next year. But no, I mean, I don't know, man. In my opinion, I thought the first DPC season was nice. It was a good change that we no longer invited teams. I thought that having all the teams have to compete was a good change. But stuff like GESC, where they literally don't pay teams or talent, and Valve gave them money, and then Valve, I mean, there's apparently no accountability in the pro circuit from Valve. If you work as a talent at an event, you have no idea if you're going to get paid just because it's a major. That's freaking crazy.
Yeah.
And there's no plans to change anything. Seems pretty bad to me, bro.
It does feel like the talent pools that are invited to events are contracting quite a lot. Do you feel that in terms of what you're doing at the moment, it feels like you're almost benefiting from that because you can work two sides of, like you were doing at MDL, you can work both content and then hosting. Do you think that's true?
Yeah, sure. But I mean, it's more stress on me too. I didn't get paid more doing 2 jobs. I just got paid the same. So yeah, it's just how you kill a scene, right? A scene needs to grow. It needs to live by new talent. It needs to be competitive by new ideas. And, cutting costs and only hiring dependable people that have worked with you before and not taking new chances is dangerous stuff. But then again, the act of having to cut costs means that you can't probably afford all the tier 1 people that you want. So you have to give some new people a chance because they're cheaper. So maybe it all evens out in the end. But in a way, it would be really nice if next year there could be a focus on, finding ways to make minors healthier, and then finding ways to innovate on majors as well to make the ecosystem a little bit better. But really, the only way that I think that you could do that is to take away money from the international, and the international is literally the only reason why anyone cares about Dota. Sorry. I mean, don't get me wrong, bro. Dota is the greatest game, but the normies, when they hear about Dota, it's too complicated to explain to them. And I know that all of us have said, oh, what's this game you play? We go, oh, well, it's got like a $25 million prize pool. That's what we all talk about. It's the only thing that helps us out in the mainstream.
But on innovation, I think Dream League did quite a lot of innovative they brought in quite a few people. Was that a fun event to work, Dream League?
Dream Leagues, yeah, they're great. I feel like that show is very much our crew of me, Sheever, Owen, and Fogg. This kind of feels like almost in a way our show as much as their show too. It's kind of a family thing over there in Sweden. They have innovation, which is great. Their whole red button thing, and you can tell that they care about making ways to make the show more interesting and more involved rather than just having the show. And that's where things, in my opinion, should be, which is, again, where the whole Midas Mode idea came from. It's like about the viewer rather than just the Dota. It's the incorporation between fans and what they love instead of just the thing that they love. I've always been this huge proponent of we should find ways to we have such an interactive medium. People go to see a movie, but they go to play a game, and having to integrate that into the show, it seems like it should be the most important thing, is to interact with the community. And I think right now Dream League's probably leading the way in like MVP votes, questions and stuff like that, Twitter questions and all that jazz, where they're actually actively trying to integrate their live audience, their interactive audience. But we'll get there one day, bro. Especially after Midas Mode 2. Woo! But I'm not here to sell out, all right? I listen to the Zyori Position 6 podcast. That ain't me, bro. I'm here to talk about all things.
I don't think talking about your own projects and life and what's coming up necessarily counts as selling out.
I ain't selling out, bro. I'm here to talk. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a doom and gloom kind of guy, and I'm not one of those guys that's crying out from the rooftops that Dota's dying. But I do think in order to make sure that we have a healthy ecosystem that's going to last a long time, certain adjustments need to be made that focus on things that people actually care about. One great example is VIP sections. Have people just forgotten what it means to have a VIP ticket at an event? It's not like you just get to sit a little bit closer. There should be an experience. These people should get better things. They should be integrated into the show. They should have backstage access, And people get away from these kind of things where they're just like, you get to sit a little bit closer behind a certain rail. I mean, that's not what that should be about. All these things have to be about integrating people that love a product with a product in as many ways as possible. And it seems like people are forgetting that in the next couple of months, and building that interaction and building that love between people and product is what makes a scene strong.
One of the things I liked about what you did at Dream League was, and we were kind of talking about this a little before, is that you interacted with the crowd quite a lot. And I think that was something that I've not massively seen at other majors, and that you were definitely in front of a crowd, and it very much felt like that. Is that something you particularly enjoyed or tried to cultivate?
Oh, absolutely. I don't know. I think I have something... we all as talent have something in common with the crowd, but this is going to sound really self-deprecating, but it's really not. I don't have skills. As it were. Like, Purge is extremely analytically smart, and everything that he does is super intelligent, and he thinks a lot about that metagame stuff. Guys like Toby Wan and OD Pixel have these natural charismas where they can cast these games beautifully and so hype. I ain't got nothing. I'm a memer. I came from the filth of Dota, the low priority, and rose up making stupid videos. So I just have a lot in common with these guys in the crowd, where it's just, that's why I'm there. I mean, as I said before, Pro Dota is great. Don't get me wrong, but I'm there to be with my brothers in the crowd. That's why I go to events. So it's the thing that I love the most, and it's really the focus. And that's one great thing about making content, is it's not about the games being played. It's about showing off the personalities of the people behind the games and making the people at home and the people in the crowd get a little view into that. So yeah, I mean, Dream League, being able to be on a panel that's in front of a crowd and feel that energy and feel that live aspect is just, it's what it should be, man. But I get it. It's a little less professional though. MDL.
No.
Well, in a way, because, crowd interaction is, it's good, but it also takes away from that serious tone of analytical, we must speak about why they banned Magnus in the second phase. But
I think that's a mistake, because, I think professionality, and I've said this before, I think, on this podcast, but I think you are a very professional performer in that you have a very laser focused eye on quality. And what you
Yeah.
do is always working towards quality. Whereas I think some people, and I'm not calling anyone out in particular, have veered away from that and are lazy when performing and lazy when on camera. Whereas you've always been very focused on improving your viewer experience. So I don't think you can class as what you do or that stage interaction as unprofessional.
No, I mean it's just a different kind of job, and
Mm.
it's it's what I'm passionate about, and that's what matters the most is doing what you are passionate about. You feel like you're never working a day in your life. And I mean, I've talked to guys that are very analytical and have to put themselves at this like position of being like this intelligent authority, and they want to have fun and stuff on the panel, but they think that actually be bad for their careers
Mm.
because they need to be looked up as this like, um, very intelligent, like a nice, you know, uh, person to look up to, however you say that. So, yeah, while there is a difference, I don't think that any person that I've personally worked with is really as jaded or faded and is just kind of going through the motions. It's just that they have to keep up that persona. The trick is that they have a persona, whereas typically I don't. I just get to be annoying. But now with that hosting gig, people are gonna expect some half professional shit, and that's gonna be awful. But anyway.
No, yeah. I mean, it's not to say that analytical work is in any way not like good. I think
No,
it's
no, no.
wonderful what those people do. I just think there's definitely room for that professionalism of comedy being something that you can take very seriously and do well.
Sure.
Have you ever done anything in the performative space before? Is this your first comedy job, as it were?
Hell yes. Jesus. I took theater in high school to try to get with some girl, and then she dropped after the first 2 weeks.
Oh
So
no.
that was awful. But no, of course, I never did any entertainment or anything. I waited tables for 8 years. I got a degree in psychology and neuroscience, worked in a house for the chronically mentally ill for 2.5 years. I never had any kind of entertainment or anything job before that. And it's kind of what makes this life of esports so authentic and real. I think it's why people love it so much, is because I don't come from a rich family who put me in school to be an actor or an entertainer, and now it's like I've come to fruition after years of training. I'm just some nerd, just like everybody else who's watching. And it's what makes our game so great. Like OD Pixel's the exact same way. Worked as a pharmacist, loved Dota, started casting, didn't get noticed for 2.5 years. Then he got one good game with Purge, and then there he is. He's like top of his field right now. And it's kind of the dream of all esports. You can play a game, get really good, and be a millionaire, or you can just love a game, be really passionate about it, and be a talent. And it's that ability that we can grow ourselves is what makes the entire environment so magical, in my opinion, and so much better than traditional TV shit, which is going down, baby. Mark my words, bro. In 5 years, 7 years, nobody's going to give a shit about traditional sports. And I know you think that I'm crazy, but if I told you the same thing 7 years ago about television, you would have thought I'm crazy too. When's the last time you've turned on an effing TV, bro? It's all Netflix now, baby. The future is coming, old men. We will be the future.
But have you found working in front of crowds, has there been a process for you in that? Because I did stand up for three,
Oh,
4
did you?
years.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and I was pretty terrible in front of crowds when I started, and I got quite good by the end of it. But it has that. Have you always felt very natural in that space in front of 1,000 people or 500 people, however many it is, or
No,
has it been a learning experience?
there's two parts to that story. When I was in high school, I was super nervous around crowds and talking. I was a big loner. When I had to give a presentation in front of my like 25 person class, my hands would shake and I'd stutter and I wouldn't be able to finish it and stuff. And then I was going off to college and I decided that I would just be a different person and I would just change it. So I said to myself, I'm going to pretend to be somebody else and then eventually I will be. So I signed up to be a resident advisor in the college dorms, which is something that was completely like I couldn't even hold a conversation with people. And I signed up for a job that was literally just doing conversations. And, it you just did it enough and then it just worked. And I kind of lived my life just like that since then. It's just jump into something, sink or swim. And so far, all I've done is swum. So I'm sure one day I'm going to sink at something. But yeah, it's funny, true story, but the first TI I worked, TI6, I was actually hired to be a post-game interviewer, like a machines job at TI8. Where basically loser interview, winner interview, I'd go over and like do on-site reporting. So I had this big packet, 70 pages legitimately, because it was like 1 page per player of questions, ideas for my interviews. That was all I was going to do. And then a Valve guy comes up to me and he says, "Hey, we think you'd be a good stage host. You want a stage host?" And I said, "When?" He said, "Well, Casey's on the stage right now. Go walk up there and do it." That was the moment. I was so fucking scared, dude.
Was that your first time in front of a crowd?
No, I went to the Manila Major, and I did post game interviews for the Manila Major, which is why they wanted me at TI. But that was my first time. Like it was improv in front of a crowd. Yeah, that was like one of those first times. And I was sitting there, and I was like, like the lights were on me. I was shaking. I couldn't talk, and I got so fucking scared that I like rolled over on my fear meter, where I just felt like I was dying. I was just like, okay, I'm at peace with this now. And then the cameras came on. Casey ate some kid's French fry, and we went in. Or I guess I ate the French fry. But yeah. But from that moment, it was like, I don't know, nervous me died. And I'm a big proponent of sink or swim, man. Just go in there and do it. And then you'll like the person that comes out, probably.
Were you getting audible laughs from the crowd? Was that something you noticed?
Oh, I don't remember. I couldn't tell you anything about that entire day. I remember the terror I had right before I had to sink or swim, and then I remembered nothing else. It was just pure adrenaline for the next freaking week and a half. No goddamn clue. I will say, though, if you're at an esports event and they do have a panel out in the crowd, give them some pity laughs here and there.
Do people laugh? Well, they're not, because you can't hear it on the stream. I've always wondered if you tell a joke on a stream.
They do. Yeah. Sometimes they laugh. It's really fun, actually. But again, I have this sick personality where when a joke really bombs, I think it's just as funny as if it does really well. So like on those Dream League ones, the feeling of having a whole stadium laughing at a joke is really great. But the whole feeling of doing a joke and looking out and seeing thousands of stone cold faces is, to me, equally, it's fucking hilarious. But yeah, I don't know. You have to have a personality for it. And sometimes, like we were talking about, like closed panels versus open panels, a lot of talent are very different in that. They'll perform really well in an open panel, like Capitalist or Kyle love open panels. Whereas some other talent, closed panels are much preferred because they can actually, they don't have to worry about appeasing that. Most people have problems with that kind of shit, and I understand. But not me, man. Suicide, jump off the cliff. Let's go.
And when you made those first couple of videos going, so I think your first one was the gyrocopter voices, am I correct in saying?
That's right. Correct. Good research.
I didn't even know. I just remembered that, if anything.
Great research,
bro. Did you expect anyone to like that? Was it going to be, because it's very low key for a mass, because it was a big break. Like I remember seeing that, and I didn't really browse the subreddit too much. Were you expecting it to get that much of a hit?
No, not at all. I mean, me and my buddy Lieutenant Burnside, my real life friend Matt, were just playing Dota because we were there to try to steal TF2 hats. It was during Dire Tide, and if you got a free set from the first Dire Tide, you could trade it for 2 refined on the TF2 market to craft a hat, bro. So we were playing Dota for that, and we were both miserable because we were new players and everyone's screaming at us. So I started doing these really dumb voices so people would stop making fun of me, because you can't make fun of somebody that's sounding like an old prospector man playing gyro. And we just had a lot of fun with it. And he's like, hey, you should record these and post them. And I did. And that was it. I just thought that, I'd post them for fun to just like catalog. What catalog? Yeah, thank you. My journey and my short time in Dota. I remember back before I started playing Dota, I watched the trailer and I said, wow, that is the first Valve game I'll never play. That is the stupidest looking fucking thing I've ever seen. It's just little guys walking around in an overhead view. But anyway, so yeah, no, I never thought anything would come out of it. And even like the Kickstarter, the Indiegogo thing, I didn't think anything would come out of that either, to buy a power supply for my computer. But kind of, I don't know, man. The Dota community literally saved my life. So that was Are you familiar with that story? You know that whole thing?
Not particularly, no.
So back when I was making those dumb videos, my power thing died on my computer, and it was like $200. And I literally, since I was like, my entire life had about $150 in my bank account from, being like, parents are super poor, I'm super poor, working a job since I was 13 years old with a worker's permit from my school. So I didn't have enough money to replace my power cord on my computer. I did an Indiegogo for $200 from the people that watch my YouTube videos, the stupid voices ones. I go to work at Outback. I come home, and the Dota community raised $12K.
Wow.
In 8 hours or something. So I said, I'm going to take all that money. I'm going to buy a camera guy. I'm going to go to this thing called the International that I've never heard of before, TI4. I'm going to film a bunch of stuff, and I'll spend every cent of this $12K trying to make something where I can turn this into a career. And it worked. And it was like, man, I guess that's where my passion comes from, because it's like, my life was literally awful before that. Fucking awful. I worked at Outback Steakhouse for 8 years. I had $100 to my name. I was sleeping on my best friend from college's couch. The only thing I owned was a leather couch named Bessie, and it stunk like shit. And I ate literally $2 hamburgers from Outback every single meal twice a day. And then that fucking Indiegogo happened, and the Dota community sent me on that ride, which worked. And now I have this life and this career. It is literally all to them. So there you go. There's your answer why I love going out in the crowd so much. It's because I don't have anything except for what those fuckers gave me.
From that explosion and that start, did it feel like a grind from there, or did it feel like a whirlwind kind of getting away from you almost?
I mean, it's always been a whirlwind. I've never felt like I've grinded on anything in Dota 2, and I've, stayed up for 48 hours straight working on some shit for like TI8 and all that other stuff, but I've never felt like it was a grind, bro. This is the greatest job in the world, is working on stuff for this game that I love. So, no, I mean, people always say, yeah, you never know when the best time of your life is. I certainly do know. It is right now, before I have some fucking kid. I can sit there and play Dota all day and trick my wife into thinking that I'm working, but I'm really just pubbing on Lion. This is the best time of my life, bro.
Do you find because a lot of people I speak to say that they find the travel very exhausting and it's a bit much. Do you agree with that, or do you just enjoy it overall?
So for me, it's personally, I love it because, I was poor my whole life. I literally never thought that I'd leave Colorado, and I get to go around the world. So, I mean, yeah, it's incredible. I mean, it's something that I know a lot of people will never have the ability to do. And I just, I'm so thankful that I'm able to go to places like India, dude. I mean, it's crazy. So for me, it's like, yeah, that part, absolutely incredible. Of course, my wife hates that I travel because I have to put pressure on her at home, and I don't get to work on my own projects the more I travel too. I love still making YouTube videos, lore videos. I love playing games and working events. It's great because you're putting on something that a lot of eyes are going to go and see, but it's not your product. And I've always loved making my product. So, yeah, travel in many ways is the most incredible thing in the world, but in other ways, it does slowly kill you. But, if I was single, I wouldn't have an issue. If it was, if I had the Owen Sheaver, where the person that I loved came with me every time, I probably wouldn't have an issue. But, yeah, I don't know. When you're in a relationship, it's always going to drag on you if you're not there. So what can you do? But I don't know. I really appreciate having that opportunity a lot, though. So
do you think you'll be able to get to a point where you can work a fewer events for more money and it becomes more sustainable as a career? Is it a sustainable career for you, do you think? Or are you going to have to give up? And
God, yeah. Well, compared to what I had, of course it's a sustainable career. I'd, work at Outback for 8 hours and make $30. Yeah, it's quite sustainable. But no, that's also part of working about esports. One day it's going to die. One day I will not be popular. I'll go on stage and accidentally say something really stupid, and then my career will end, and it could happen at any career. And you have to think about what's next after that. I don't think a lot of people think about that in esports. I don't think players or talent really think 10 years down the line because they're enjoying what they're doing so far. But I think about that a lot and kind of trying to build towards those unreachable goals that will come down later. So for now, it's sustainable for sure. Is it something that can get me through the rest of my life? I don't know. I sure would hope so. I hope that I'm one of the last players of Dota. People still want me to go to events, but I don't know. Who knows? But for now, everything seems pretty good. Yeah, don't know too much more to say about that.
No,
don't really have a retirement account, unfortunately.
But was there that element of career planning when you started? Because when I was thinking a lot about talents and people, it felt that obviously what you do is yourself, but it felt more managed what you'd done and what you'd achieved than other people. Would you say that's true, that you had this idea of I want to do this, then this, then this?
Yeah, I've, all jokes aside, put in a lot of thought into what's missing, what would always be in demand, and what is something that I would excel at. So everyone, when they're when you're your own boss and you're thinking about where your career is going to go, you have to make those decisions if you're smart and say like right now, if you want to be a hype caster in Dota 2, good luck. That's a very difficult job because there's so many people that are already very good at that. And you not only have to be better than them, you have to be different and better than them. You can't be a little bit less. If you really want to get hired to events, you have to be unique and better, which is extremely hard. So yeah, there was a lot of thinking about what does Dota not have that I could provide, which is something that you should always think about in the kind of entertainment industry, is what can I do that no one else is doing? But on that subject, where the F is my replacement? I don't... Seriously. I mean, I've been waiting for 4 years for some competition. Somebody's got to go out there and start doing this shit. We got, a lot of people want to be hype casters, analytical casters, very hard to find right now because, pro players are retiring and it's like, how do you prove that you're smart enough to do it? So hype caster is a big one. Other personalities, interviewer and stuff is something that some people can tap into. But where's the other content creators, boys? Get out there. Give me some competition. I'm garbage. Don't you people realize this, that I'm cringy garbage? Where's the other content creator at?
Comedy's tough though, isn't it? It's because you hit a vein of something and I don't quite I massively enjoy your content, but I don't necessarily get the because I've done a lot of comedy theory stuff is what I'm trying to say, and you can't reverse engineer a Sir Action Slacks video to understand where the jokes are, if that makes sense.
Bro, can you please tell me what I have? You look at comedy, you analyze comedy. What am I doing?
I don't even know. I've got no idea. Whereas a lot of if I look at say a stand-up, like a well-structured comedian, you can go, oh, the jokes are there. That's what makes sense. That's why they're funny. For what works in esports, it seems to be this chaos of you have to hit something at the right time and build a sense of humor around you. So I think it's quite difficult for people to break into that. Maybe.
Very interesting. Well, there should be somebody out there. Come on, follow your dreams. I can't do everything, people. We need other lifeblood in the scene. We need other people making jokes, making content that's innovative and fun to watch. And it's open. The spot is open. Somebody, why don't you do it? Great podcast, comedy background. There we go. We found the...
I've done a little bit. There's subtext.
Hell yeah.
A stand-up video that about 1,000 people watched that did all right. I'm going to work on some more stuff going forwards. It's difficult, though. It is hard to know what, because you write one joke that one person doesn't find funny and they're just going to hate you.
Yeah.
Which I imagine is what you've found, but you seem to perversely get off on it. So
it is true. It's actually sickening how much I get off on it. But yeah, I know I can understand for you. And of course, like anybody's field, it takes time to improve. It takes innovation. It takes creativity to get better. And it is super draining too. I always talk about how great my job is and how much I love it. But then again, it's a 24-hour job. There's never a sign off. When I'm not at an event, I'm my own agent. I'm my own manager. I'm my own everything. Social media. It literally never stops. I never clock out and just have time with the people that I love. There's always something going off on my phone that I need to address or something that I think about. So there's a reason that I had a full head of hair before I had this job. And I was a sexy body. And now I'm a disgusting cretin. It's because shit literally takes years off your life. So good while it lasts, though. Die fast, live young. Wait, other way around. Live fast, die young. Bad girls.
Live
Indeed.
slow, die old.
Hell
That's what
yeah.
I'll go
That's
for.
the Pyrian flex.
That must be a very good life, his one. Sitting around playing games, looking after kids.
Yeah, but then you have to be Pyrian flex. And is it really worth it? I don't think so.
Okay, I think that's close to all I've
That's it?
Well,
we have hours more.
We're close to. I mean, we've done 1 hour. We could times it by, I reckon, 2 before people began to
Hell yeah.
complain.
All right, bro.
What's coming up next for you? You're not at ESL Birmingham, am I right in saying?
I am not at ESL Birmingham. They were kind enough to invite me to ESL Birmingham, and I actually had to decline. I have some projects coming up. Of course, Midas Mode is my number one focus, but I did need some me time. I needed to get back with the wife. I went on quite the event stint for the last couple of times, and pays to chill out once in a while, take a few deep breaths, think about some stuff that you want to do later. But got some other work coming up. Hopefully going to be working on this year's International like I worked on last year's International alongside Valve, doing some stuff for that, which would be cool. Besides that, just TI season, man. We're almost there. Grinding until that happens, bro.
As to close up, is there anything you want to bring up or plug yourself?
Plug for me?
Mm.
What would I want to plug? Well, I hardly stream anymore because I'm too busy, so don't do that. You'll be very disappointed. Let's see, my YouTube, I haven't made a Lorgasm in a couple months, so that'd disappoint you. You know what? I'm getting close to Purge on Twitter followers, so if you really want to help me out, I'd really like to piss Purge off and pass him on Twitter followers so I could hold that over his head. I know I can't pass him in MMR, but if this is one thing I'd have over that son of a bitch, so help me out and follow me on Twitter, guys. And then you can unfollow as soon as I finally pass Purge. I'm sure Purge literally couldn't care less, so it will really, really get him, guys. I don't know, bro. Let's talk about you. You ever been counter-interviewed on your podcast, brother?
No, I never have, actually. No one has had the courtesy.
Well, as Dota 2's third best interviewer. Tell me a little bit about your passion. Why'd you get into Dota, brother?
I started Dota. I used to play Warcraft 3 custom games back in the day.
Oh, so you're an original Dota man.
Yeah, well, I mean, by original, I used to join Dota Games feed in the safe lane usually. I'd always buy 6 Blades of Attack because they do the most damage. I didn't understand how recipes worked. It was complicated.
That sounds good.
And then I picked up Dota 2, and then I just used to play around. I used to do a bit of writing, and then when I quit comedy, I did comedy for about 3 years, and I had no time for anything else. When I started to hate that, I thought, what can I do that I won't hate? And I thought I'd make some Dota stuff. It's going all right so far.
Hell yeah. That's great. You still play Dota right now, brother?
Yeah, quite a bit. I kind of basically quit for about 3 years when I was doing comedy. Back into it. I'm quite enjoying it. I just played Necrophos. I got a 10-game win streak with Narve, which is
Necro, what the fuck?
Really good.
I know he's good. You sick bastard. Even as a Techies player, I'm not a sick enough person to play Necrophos. There's only one thing people want to do. They want to play Dota. Not sit in their base after you scythe the vice them with an axe for 2 fucking minutes. What the hell's wrong with you?
I quite like it though. I play Football Manager usually at the same time as I play Dota. So when I get scythed, I just go off and I sell some Wonder Kids. I love it. My favourite thing about Dota is not playing Dota.
I think you have that in common with a lot of people, actually. All right, so what are your thoughts on the esports scene? Is Dota dying, bro? From your perspective, what do you think as someone who's not at these events?
It feels like it's doing. I think the talent pool is contracting, and it does feel like they're cutting costs from the outside. I think if this was 5 years ago and I was doing this podcast, then I would have been snapped up to interview at events earlier.
Yes.
But now there's just no room because they get someone like you to do the hosting and the interview. So it does feel like there's that contracted talent, but it's hard to know exactly. People always tell me that it's dying, but I think it's one of those things where if you're in the eye of the storm, it probably feels a lot worse than it actually is.
Yeah, I think that the next TI and the TI after that are really going to shape the next 5 to 10 years of what Dota is. Because Valve really, I think, has to work at making sure that the tier 2 scene and these internationals go over very well. And if they don't, then we could start to see a decline. But I disagree with you, brother. I feel like the fact that they're cutting back on costs, tier 1 talent costs a lot, you know? And giving new guys opportunities like at that India event where we saw that for the first time the what's his name? Oh, I can't believe I forgot his name. Matt. I forget. Danog. Kind of crappy name is that anyway? Danog. Change your name. But having like new talent, they're cheaper anyway. Having a new interviewer is great. There's still a lot of room to go to some of these events and show off your stuff, but the problem isn't with the talent. The problem is, will the fans watch these smaller events where new teams and new talent are given opportunities? And in the current atmosphere of Dota 2, I don't think so. I think that there has to be support from Valve on the tier 2 scene to make people want to watch it. So
it feels like 5 years ago that there was more room, what I'm saying, for that ensemble, though. Whereas now everyone has to dual role. You have to cast, you have to panel, you have to host, you have to interview. There's not necessarily room for this gigantic group of people that would have allowed a small person to sneak up with everyone else that would have happened before.
Yeah, that is true in a way. I mean, you're going to see guys like Cap get a lot of jobs because he can panel and cast, whereas like your traditional only casters like my boy Toby, probably going to be seeing less and less jobs because why get one guy that can only cast, even if he is the best caster? But then again, I don't know. I think that there's a lot of room for people that are new to the scene that are cheap. So money matters.
Keep that in mind. I'll be cheap.
I mean, I'm not saying. Okay, sorry. In America, cheap always 100% means inexpensive. I've learned that in the last few years that in other parts of the world, cheap means crappy. Not true in America. Cheap means monetarily inexpensive. So now you're not cheap, bro. You're a new talent that would be less expensive to hire and then could equally be as impressive.
So, in the UK, it tends to mean that you won't buy people stuff. So
So, all right. Well, I guess I love podcasts, so I'd be here all day, but your audience probably wants to move on to talk about other shit, I guess. But
yeah,
it's a real pleasure to be on. If you ever would like me on again, I'd love to do it.
No, thanks so much for coming on. I've massively enjoyed having you. I will stop recording.
Where's the close? There's no open, there's no close.
Thank you for listening to the Position 6 podcast, and a huge thanks to Sir Axel Sachs for appearing on it. I don't think I've laughed as much doing a podcast as I did doing that, and it was great fun to talk to him. He's a really, really nice guy, and I think he deserves all the success he's been having. Thank you once again for all of your support so far. Again, if you want to follow me on Twitter, I can be found at Daniel Offen, and that's Daniel and then OFFEN. And it'd be a huge help if you were to share and talk about the podcast wherever you can. Chatting on Reddit or making posts there is always really helpful to me. So thanks for everyone who's been doing that, and thanks for anyone who's going to do it in the future. Again, if you want to support me financially, you can find my Patreon in the episode description. Doing stuff like that really helps me build myself in the Dota scene. I've attended ESL1 Birmingham last weekend based off Patreon money, so massively appreciate that. The videos for ESL1 Birmingham, I've got 13 of them. They'll be coming out across the next couple of weeks. The first one was with No Tail, but I've got ones with Seb, I've got ones with PPD, X-Nova, all types of really top players. It's been very exciting, so look forward to those coming out. As part of the Patreon campaign, I'd like to thank 3 of my most favourite supporters. Firstly, Matthew Wisniewski, then Christopher Strong, and then 115, and the whole of the Jordan Dota community. So thanks so much, guys, for your support so far. And that's all, so look out for the videos, and next week I'll be releasing an episode with Kips, the coach of Complexity, who was wonderful and very exciting, so look out for that. Till then though, have a nice week, and I'll see you next week.